People in our own backyards are hurting. There are insecurities around food, economics, mental health, access to justice, healthcare, and our society continues to become more divisive. But there is hope. Right here in Chicagoland, there are people and organizations who are on the front lines, working to bring about positive and transformative change. Each week, we're going to meet some of these agents of change and examine how they are spurring innovative ideas and finding solutions to push our society forward in a more just direction. I'm Sufyan, and this is Change Agents. Good evening. There are 74.2 million people under 18 living in the United States, which is 24% of our total population. Children are our future. They are creative, often fearless, and bursting with energy, hungry for knowledge. Nearly 40% of our children in the United States live in low-income families with incomes at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. Children from our most vulnerable communities do not always have the chance to discover their potential. They are filled with promise and have big dreams, but are limited by their circumstance, their environment, and systems beyond their control. These children are more likely to have sex before the age of 16, become involved with gangs, attack someone or get into a fight, steal something worth more than $50, or run away. They're more likely to start school with limited language skills, have less parental support with homework, and deal with more emotional and social problems that interfere with their learning. There is a disconnect between our youth and the resources they have available to them. Plus, there's a lack of positive influences in their lives that allow them to see themselves as they should. My first guest tonight is a leader who is using music and mentorship to create a space of creativity, joy, and self-actualization for our children. I am so excited to introduce Andre Add to Daniels, the Chicago Regional Director for Guitars Over Guns. Add to, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Add to, I was at this luncheon this week where there was a mental health professional who's focused primarily on the Black community. And she spoke and said that Black youth are nearly twice as likely to commit suicide as white children. She also further said that dealing with neighborhood violence, hypersexualization, racism, all this trauma and so many other issues is so problematic because on one side, these youth don't want to overburden their parents or their caregivers. But on the other side, rather than receive care from other places like their schools, their coaches, they are penalized or disciplined for showing some of the effects of this trauma. Can you tell me a little bit more about this, please?
Yeah, I would say, especially just observing what goes on within our community, a lot of it is internalization, right? Is since like you mentioned before, if I express myself, where is this being accepted? And school, you can't really be yourself. At home, you have to probably be a certain version of yourself. Even with friends, you can't really be yourself because you're being what the neighborhood needs you to be. So a lot of the things where you might be feeling vulnerable, you might be feeling sad, you might be feeling upset, you might be feeling like traumatized by the reality that's around you, but you don't have any sources to express that. So then what do you do with that? You just keep it to yourself and then you keep pushing. But then these things keep building and it keeps building. And without outlets to express themselves, you kind of just carry it until unfortunately it spills over. So the sad part is that the narrative is that we're fine. It's like when you look at, on the outside, if you ask a lot of teenagers, you're like, I'm all right, I'm cool. But when you have a chance to really get to know them, you realize, man, you're dealing with a lot more than what somebody your age should even have to deal with. And not just in the sense of just one thing. They're dealing with it in layers. So it's really tragic because a lot of the kids, to no fault of their own, are in these situations and they're fighting for survival. And they don't even know, one, how well they're doing at it. But, or how big this mountain is to climb by yourself.
No, thank you for sharing that. We were talking earlier about the lack of mental health resources, but it's a little bit more than that. We've discussed and tried to dissect mental health disparities amongst communities on this show before, but not with this focus of youth. Not only are there stigmas, but is access also a problem?
Oh, yeah, because like if you look at our neighborhoods, like just drive through the neighborhood and see the businesses that you see available like within the radius of a school. Chances are you're going to see a lot of fast food spaces. You are going to see used car dealerships. You're going to see maybe some facilities that not necessarily like career building spaces, but you'll see maybe some park district areas. But you're not going to run into too many offices that say like, you know, this is Dr. such and such here, and that's not a usual thing. Like, I mean, we got corner stores everywhere, we got gas stations everywhere, but you know, when you look at least these spaces for mental health, that's few and far between.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a usual circumstance right now.
And there's a cost involved.
Absolutely. So even if someone were to open up an office, it's like, well, how will they survive? You know what I'm saying? Like, will the community support it? So now you're in this conundrum where it's like, all right, which one comes first? Who sacrifices first in order for these things to exist?
And not too many people are willing to sacrifice.
Which is the tragic part.
And then there's stigmas also, right? There's,
Yeah.
you know growing up in an Indian household, I was told we don't share our problems with anyone else.
Oh, come on.
You know, we keep it within our, you know, and I hear that's similar to other communities.
Absolutely. So in Black families, traditionally, you couldn't really talk about what you're dealing with. You had to put it to the side. You might be the oldest sibling within the household, so you know you're now the unelected parent, and when your mom is gone working, but if you said certain things, it was kind of downplayed. So, you know, let's say, for instance, like if your family was heavily in the church, they say, just sit down and pray about it. And I love praying, but there also needs to be supplementary help too, because sometimes in the grand scheme of it, you're like, well, I need help now. I need somebody to talk to now. And you can do both. Like, that's the beauty of it, is it doesn't have to be just one thing. It doesn't have to be, I pray and then that's it. It could be like, I could pray and I could go to therapy. And so I wish more of us had that space. Not only is Black children to be able to say, like, I'm hurting, or this happened to me, and let me tell you how this affected me, or seeing or witnessing violence around me makes me feel unsafe in the neighborhood that I have to live in. Like, instead of being proud about it, like, I think we're kind of like teaching ourselves the opposite. It's like, oh, enjoy the hell that you're in. Well, no, I don't like being here. So, you know, things that, like, there's certain calms and certain norms that I wish that we were able to experience, because then it'll change a lot of the behaviors. If my reality is showcasing one thing, then I'm kind of prone to survive.
Sure.
As opposed to, let me just see what life is like when I'm just able to be myself and be away from everything and not have to fight for everything or worry about something's going to take something away from me, or my own mortality.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Which is a real thing that I think maybe a lot of people don't realize, that so many of our communities are dealing with that thought on a daily basis.
Yeah. Like, if you ask a lot of the, you know, youth now about what do they think about their life expectancy, you'd be surprised at how many of them actually could see themselves as young adults. I remember at one point we were saying 21 was an accomplishment. That was a thing back when I was younger. I'm 36. And I could imagine that was to adults jarring. Now when I talk to like 7th, 8th graders, 6th graders, they kind of figure like, I'll be lucky if I make it out of high school. Wow. And so, and they say it almost as if this is the normal thing. In reality, for some of them, they've seen that happen. They've seen that story. They've seen those faces on that T-shirt, and they've seen those people and whose names become the block. You know, like, that's their story. And, you know, I think it's a real tragic thing, because once that becomes set in your mind, you kind of lose hope for everything else. You know, like, well, what's the point of going to school if I'm not going to, grow
What's
up
the
to?
point?
Yeah, what's
Yeah.
the point? Like,
But you talk about hope, and you're doing some work to change that and instill hope into the lives of our children. Talk
yeah.
about Guitars Over Guns and the work that you're doing.
And so Guitars Over Guns is a music mentoring program in Chicago, in Miami, and we've expanded into LA and trying to get to New York. And but in Chicago in particular, we're on the south and west sides of Chicago, and we're serving underserved neighborhoods. And we do it through music. So we hire musicians within the community to be the music mentors. So they go within the middle schools, high schools, community spaces, and they teach music, but also they teach like SEL practices.
What's SEL?
Social emotional learning.
Oh, great.
So,
Okay. Much needed.
oh yeah,
Adults
absolutely.
need that as well.
Absolutely. And they spend parts of the day, whether it's in school, after school, just teaching and engaging with the youth and talking to them about life, talking about career goals, helping them to the next level, and being present. Because sometimes I feel like you need someone in your corner to be the biggest cheerleader for you, to see something in you that you may not see in yourself at the moment, and someone to activate that while you're making that everyday choice to be present.
But with so much going on in their lives, isn't it hard to be present? How do you help instill that importance of being present?
One, I think it happens over time.
Okay.
Like, for me, I'm always thinking about the long game.
Sure.
It's like, well, that first day may not be the day that they open up. But if I create a space that's welcoming, a place that they can be themselves, a place there's no pressure to achieve a certain level, but a place to know that they're valued, then they'll show up a little bit more every day. And slowly but surely, you get the chance to see them open up and be the kids that the streets didn't allow them to be. I love those moments. That's the moment I live for, where it's like a kid who might be tough on the outside, but then next thing you know, it's like week 5, they're talking to you about Dragon Ball Z and, you know what I'm saying, Pokemon. You're like, oh, I thought you didn't watch that. And you actually found out you do, or that moment we figured out, it's like, oh, I didn't actually want to play basketball. I really wanted to, do this other thing. Or I wanted to be a musician, and I just never had the chance to. So,
how are the students finding out about Guitars Over Guns? Like, what's their touch point?
So we first initially go into the schools, and we might have like a recruitment concert.
Okay.
And basically, the musicians come in, they have like a jam out session, and just have kids approach them, and it could be anywhere from like, hey, you want to jump in on these drums? Go ahead. Oh man, you want to play this beat machine? Go ahead. Oh, you can sing, get on the microphone. And they just kind of just jam out. And from that moment, you get a chance to see them almost have like, when you're in the store and you like, it says like, try this. And you be like, wow, actually, it's not that bad. And from that moment, we tell them like, hey, well, if you want to be a part of this, it'll be from this time to this time. And people will leave out with some literature. And sure enough, they'll sign up, come back. And then after that, they enrolled into the program.
What if they have absolutely zero musical talent? Is there still space for them?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm talking about myself.
Yes,
here.
come on through. Like, so the thing is that it's not necessarily to make the greatest musicians. I think sometimes in music programs, they're graded on the scale of, can you be a world-class musician? My phrase is, I'm here for the person, not the product. So it's like, I would much rather you have fun. I'd much rather you have a great experience. I'd much rather you have a family now, as opposed to, you're an amazing musician, but you're dealing with all the same issues that a lot of musicians are dealing with. Like a lot of issues that they're stressed with when they haven't properly healed either. And so I would much rather you find a family, a support system, and even if you never play a song a day in your life, I'm okay with that. I have a mentee who may have made one song in 5 years. He's been with me ever since he first walked in, and I do not complain at all. Like, he was there just to play Super Smash Brothers. All right, cool. Go ahead, do your thing.
But there's community, right? And they're using, they're finding ways to address the issues in their lives with
Yeah.
healthy, positive influences. Last question before we wrap up: why is this work so important to you?
Wow. This work is so important to me is because I've seen these stories within my life echo over and over again. And, unfortunately, I've also have lost some mentees of mine to gang violence, to drug overdoses, to unfortunate situations within their neighborhood, to no fault of their own. And so if we have the opportunity to bring joy to somebody, for that afternoon, you can bring somebody peace. You can bring somebody a room of love, and to give them a break. Just to give them a break from everything that they're already dealing with. Like, school is tough enough, the world is tough enough, your house is tough enough. So the fact that you can have one place where you could be yourself, where you could just laugh the entire time and enjoy yourself, and we're a part of that journey, I feel like that's the best thing that we could do.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ad, too. So inspired by your passion to create a better world for all of our youth. And one who will be joining me next on our next segment. Sit tight, friends. Change Agents will be right back.
I'm Bianca Cotton, host of Behind the Confident Smile. Tune in this Friday at 7 p.m.
Maybe it stems from childhood, wanting to be, the best student in the classroom. I don't know, but I feel like I had to keep up this facade that I had everything together.
Welcome back. My next guest tonight is Christopher Fable Horace, a program participant and current mentor with Guitars Over Guns. Fable, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, rapper, producer, engineer, trumpeter, I hear.
Yes.
Plus probably so many other things. With such a rich skill set, why Guitars Over Guns? What was that need to take you to that organization?
I'd always had a musical background. My dad was really insistent on me learning an instrument at a young age, and that taking me to higher education. But around the time I ran into Guitars Over Guns, I didn't really have like a huge sense of direction on where I was gearing the talents that I'd sort of built up over the course of the years, and the community was so welcoming, and there were peers my age, a little younger, a little older, a lot of examples of people who were like using their artistic talents to do something with their lives, and it was really inspiring, and it was really cool to see people in similar situations as me, similar backgrounds, similar origin stories, and it was great. I really built up a family once I met everyone there.
And how long were you a mentee with Guitars Over Guns?
I was a mentee for about 3-4 years.
Okay.
Through Haven Studios.
Oh, Haven Studios.
Yes.
And now you're a mentor. So what does that
Yes.
look like?
It looks like what they gave me. I help a lot of the mentees come in and handle their engineering, their production, if they're curious about what it's like being a gigging musician, giving them advice with that, sort of just leading them down the far more convenient avenues that I wish I had known about prior, and sort of like helping them make their moves for the sort of future that they're trying to build with their talents.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
And it's great that you're giving back. Why are programs like this so important?
Artistic resources are already, very limited for any individual, and especially for the youth. There's so many youth that they lean towards, the artistic practice a little bit more naturally, especially in more impoverished communities, and I feel like someone who's younger definitely deserves the opportunity to be able to have an avenue where they can go and express themselves safely, comfortably, not really feeling judged by it, being around similar minds, I just feel like it's a very, necessary program.
And what would you say was the biggest impact it had on your life?
It really showed me that there is a place to be, a practicing artist, making a living off of it. Not necessarily always fame and fortune, but
Hopefully, eventually, though. Right?
hopefully,
Yeah.
but a means of being able to generate stability for yourself, and that an artistic career takes way more forms than what we were probably already aware of commonly. And it really helped to guide my steps moving forward up until this point,
That's so great. I'm glad you found a home with them.
Absolutely.
In our first segment, we talked a little bit about some of the issues facing our communities.
Right.
And, there's a lot of disparities when you talk about communities, mental health, et cetera, et cetera. How does an organization like Guitars Over Gun help to meet the needs of some of these students outside of what you said?
Right. Well, it's kind of like I said earlier, there's a lot of youth that come from low-income neighborhoods that are already artistically inclined. It's just one of those things where there's so many other avenues to go down in life when you don't have much, and you sort of just look for a distraction from all of the chaos, all of the stress. There's a lot going on in your mind, in your family, in your household. Just having a place to be able to redirect that energy, redirect that tension, have an environment where you're really able to express it and give it a sort of tangibility. It helps. It's almost like therapy. It's great for your mental health. It's great for your emotional health. It's just something that it really makes you feel a little bit more liberated than you had, prior. It gives you a different outlook on, what there is to life. And I think that's really cool.
You said it so beautifully. And I'm told you prepared a little something for our viewers tonight.
I did.
Oh, wonderful. We'll be right back with a special presentation from Fable.
I will not fear. I will not move from here. I will not fear. I will not move from here. Look, baby, do not fear. I have killers in my rear. I had Jesus take the wheel. Happy in my wheel. I got demons here for real. I just popped away my pills. I got happy here for real. No, hey, baby, do not fear. I have killers in my rear. I had Jesus take the wheel. Happy in my wheel. I got demons here for real. I just popped away the pills. I got happy here for real. Look. Yeah, the music had never been good enough. I told you before, it's a cinema. I pucker my lips when I'm manning up. I caught a new body on camera. I promise that what I've been building up, disgusting, that's like in and out. I fire my whip when I'm wilding out, blasting, whoop, acne. Be getting too wily, then take a hiatus, coyote. Every time I'm on the road, I'm running out. Hey, I whip it on action, then server went back here on Bishop. And they wonder why the heck I'm always running out. Hey, baby, do not fear. I have killers in my rear. I have Jesus take the wheel. Happy in my wheel. I have demons here for real. I just popped away my pills. I got happy here for real. No. Hey, baby, do not fear. I have killers in my rear. I had Jesus take the wheel. Happy in my wheel. I got demons here for real. I just popped away my pills. I got happy here for real. No. Yeah, I will not fear.
That was so great. Thank you, Fable, for sharing your truth, your story, and your music with us. We'll be right back with this week's Change in Action.
Hi, I'm Corey Timms. Tune in this Friday at 7:30 p.m. on Channel 19 for part 1 of our inspiring sit-down conversation with Senate Majority Leader Kimberly Lightford.
I'm in the director's office. I'm the last person on the totem pole, opening mail. How am I going to get the director to notice me so that I can do more things in the management space?
In this week's Change in Action, we have a special treat for you. The CAN TV team visited one of Guitars Over Guns partner sites and filmed them doing what they do best.
I'm finna spit for you. Skibbity dope, 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 dope. Yes, yes.
Here at Guitars Over Guns, you know, this program is just very motivating and inspiring. We get the youth up in here at an early age to be able to discover their talents, you know, open up the talents that they have, that they got within, you know. So whether it's making beats, singing, songwriting, MCing, rapping, we cover all bases.
I am a mentor for Guitars Over Guns. I lead the producers, and basically what we do is we take kids who want to learn music and may not have the resources, and we put them in an environment for them to learn music and for them to ask questions and explore their craft and their creative abilities.
A little bit of what we do is just provide opportunities, musical opportunities for the students. We also delve in a little bit with social emotional learning.
What's your biggest fear? Like, what are you scared of?
Making sure that they feel connected as a unit.
Having mentors and mentorship gives you a leg up when it comes to following your dreams or being creative and making things happen for yourself. A lot of kids might not necessarily have those positive role models. So every time we step in a building, we want to be that positive role model for a kid that's paying attention, whether we know it or not, you know.
It's a very nice program. I like what they're doing to have little kids show out their talents or what they like to do.
We have a lot of fun, play some games here and there. We teach them music standards, but also, again, just how to be a person, how it feels to be a creative person in this world, in this lifetime.
Because when kids start to get older, that's what they're going to like to do.
And you know, this is just a great opportunity for our students here to get out and just do different things other than the norm. Music is a universal language, all right? And we just want these kids to be able to envelop it and nourish it and be able to get into it.
I love bringing music to the youth and showing them what it is to be an artist, showing them what goes into being an artist. I'm
usually with the MCs, the rappers. That's how I started off in Guitars Over Guns, but then I became the ISC here for Lloyd Bond. Also, I teach hip hop here, so all my students from kindergarten through 6th grade learn about the history of hip hop, how hip hop got started and stuff like that. So Guitars Over Guns is here and we doing it big.
Thank you to my guests, Add2, Fable, and the incredible Guitars Over Guns teams for sharing their work, their passion, and their commitment to build a better future for our children with us all today. President Franklin D. Roosevelt said, "We cannot always build a future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future." Youth mentorship and empowerment is vital. Studies show positive outcomes of programs like Guitars Over Guns help improve social skills, improve behavior, and increase academic achievement and self-esteem. Young people who are surrounded by a variety of opportunities for positive encounters engage in less risky behaviors and ultimately show evidence of higher rates of successful transition into adulthood. I know that each of us can go out and do a little something to mentor, to support, and to empower our youth, or those bringing these invaluable resources to our communities. Each of us can be change agents. Let us all be change agents. Thank you. I will see you next week, wishing you a wonderful evening.